So welcome to today's Thrive Call. I'm Kendra Cunov, and I'm here with John Wineland. And we're really excited to be with all of you who are here live, and really excited to talk about embodiment practice. That's the realm we work in. We are embodiment coaches, probably first and foremost. And then from there, we work in a lot of other realms, including intimacy and relationship. So the first thing we really wanted to do was actually talk about what is embodiment practice. It's what I woke up this morning, and this is what was in my mind, was like, what do we mean when we say embodiment practice? And so the primary piece of that, I mean, it really kind of goes in order, right? Embodiment is one piece. And when we say embodiment, we're talking about to actually bring it into your body. So there's a lot of things that are wonderful ideas, and we can think about them. We can hear it. We can get excited about it. We can have a lot going on in our mind about it. And so when we're talking about an embodiment practice, we're talking about something that we actually bring into our bodies. And then we use the word practice. I realize, especially John and I, we say this a lot. We say practices or practice. And I wanted to clarify that we don't use that term on accident. We actually use it because we mean practice these things. Like, it actually takes practice. And anything that we talk about here, or other things that, sometimes we talk about online or on Facebook or wherever, first and foremost, they're all things that we are practicing probably almost continuously. And what allows for that is that we've taken the time to take them on as practices, where we set aside time and we specifically say, now I will practice this, so I can actually get good at it, right? The way you might practice dribbling, or you might practice, a certain yoga pose, but then you can just do it and it comes in flow. So that's just what we mean. That's sort of the definition of embodiment practice. And then, John, did you want to talk a little bit about some of the science behind this?
Yeah, well, so I spent last weekend with a neuroscientist who studies peak performance, and we spent most of the weekend nerding out on what the science of embodiment is. And what they know now pretty concretely is flow. A flow state is taking us from beta to theta, alpha and theta consistently, which happens oftentimes through different practices, but the ones that we want to introduce to you today are embodiment practices centered around with the pillar, with the most important piece being breath. So what this does is takes us from beta, which is normally where most humans are 90% of the time, which is about me and fear, to alpha and theta, which is where we start to get into the areas of feeling, of service, of inspiration, of sacredness. And so there's literally there's an art form, there's a yoga, let's call it, meaning there's breath and posture and physiology to helping to drop into those states. And, peak performance science now is showing that this is, pretty much aligned. What the yogis and the Taoists have known for 5,000, 6,000 years, science is now absolutely confirming. The one other thing I'd say about embodiment is that it literally, when we talk about embodiment, we talk about getting in the body, moving from the mind, right, which is where we spend a lot of time when we're on our phone or on a computer or thinking, to being actually in the body, to moving from the mind to the belly, or from the mind to the womb, from the mind to the heart. And that's an important thing to note, that when we do that, it changes our physiology, it changes the hormones we secrete, it changes our brain waves, it changes everything.
And then just a little bit more context, and give you a little bit of a map of where we're going to go today. So we also, I really loved Miriam. It's lovely to see you. But I loved you bringing in that piece about mastering the art of structure and flow. And so actually everything we're going to talk about today, we'll just weave that in. And you know, John's talking about how we get into flow state. And part of that is by creating the structure that allows for flow. So we're really looking at, you know, in some of our work, we'll talk about it as the masculine and the feminine. And I think in this context, it's really beautiful to look at it in terms of structure and flow and how we bring each of those pieces into our own beings, our own bodies, and then our own practice. So each of these things has a relationship to structure and flow. And we'll actually go through 3 specific practices, and then we have a little bit of time for more varied Q&A. And hopefully at the end, we'll have some time to actually dive deep with 1 or 2 of you, depending on where we're at in the call. So that's the structure for this call. And so as John said, the first piece we really want to touch on is breath, because it's foundational to every other practice. And with that said, this is true for all of them, but of course something like breath, I mean, any one of these practices, we could actually talk about it for the whole hour, and we could practice it for the whole hour, and we could go into it in a whole different ways. We could talk about it, we could have Q&A, and we're just going to take each one and really give a little slice that we hope you can take away with you, and then practice in your own lives, deepening it. So it sounds obvious to say that breath is foundational, because we all know we would die if we weren't breathing. And you're probably all aware, though, that most of us, and certainly many of our clients, don't breathe very consciously. So that's the piece we're bringing in today.
So I'd like all of you to close your eyes and put your right hand, take your right hand and put it just below your navel. And then take a nice, smooth, deep inhale in to the palm of your hand. And then smoothly exhale. Mouth is closed and you're breathing in and out through the nose. And then another inhale, feeling your belly rise with each inhale. Basically, you're breathing into the palm of your hand. So you want your palm literally to feel the breath. And on the exhale, everything relaxes and your navel moves gently towards the spine as the breath flows out your nose. And just continue that, keeping all of your awareness, training your mind to stay aware of the breath flowing down the front of the body, behind the heart, past the solar plexus and into the belly. And then as you exhale, you literally track it out the opposite way and feeling the exhale on your upper lip. And so for about 30 seconds or so, just really lock into focusing on breathing into your lower belly. And notice if there's a place in your body that you can relax while you do that. Maybe your shoulders can drop a little bit. Maybe your jaw can loosen a little bit. And if a thought passes through your mind, continue to bring the awareness back to palm on the belly. So you're bringing all of your awareness to the inside of your body and to your breath. Just notice if this starts to feel delicious, relaxing. Peaceful. For the last 30 seconds, just bring all of your awareness once again to tracking the breath into the belly rising, to the belly falling. And for these last few seconds of the meditation, try to keep your eyes closed if you can, because when you open your eyes, you start thinking. And for these last few seconds of the meditation, I would rather you feel the space that you're in. So you're continuing to breathe into the palm of your hand, but now you're literally feeling the room you're in. Are there plants? Is there sunlight coming in? Are there books? Feel the four corners of the room. And so you notice that it just took a few minutes of breath and some concentration on feeling, opening your feeling body, turning on your feeling body. And so before I have you open your eyes, I want you to take a few seconds and just feel everybody else on the call. Just allow your body, which is now more relaxed and hopefully a tiny bit more open, feel everybody in the call. And so you can slowly open your eyes. Come back to this moment. And just by a show of hands, that was a very brief meditation, but by a show of hands, how many people feel more in their body? We were going to measure embodiment. How many people actually feel more in their body? Okay, good. Good. That's what you're looking for. And the story that Kendra wanted me to tell about this was, I gave a talk, I don't know. It's my first talk that was recorded last October as part of 4PC. And I had written down about 100 things that I wanted to say. And the morning of the talk, I was staring at these things, having no idea of what I was going to talk about. And so I'm sitting here 3 minutes before, realizing that I don't know what I'm going to talk about. Like, I could choose from 100 things. So all I knew to do was what we just did, which is stop thinking about it and breathe. And so I put my hand on my lower belly and I just spent 2-3 minutes breathing into my belly. And I got up on stage and I started the talk. During the talk, I didn't know what to say next. So I took a second in between saying one thing and breathed into my belly and said something else. And this whole talk went that way, where I was just feeling into the moment, trusting what I knew, and just allowing my body, my feeling body, to say what needed to be said. Well, when I finally posted that talk a few months ago, it went viral. And what people commented on again and again and again is how much they felt the delivery, right? Which to me, I was scared shitless, quite frankly, when I got up there. But it was proof for me that this stuff really has practical applications. Like, we actually can feel what to do next, what to say next, how to be next, when we continually return back to the wisdom of our belly. You know, for men, it's called, the Jiantian, which is the seed of creation. And for women, it's the womb. And so if we trust our bodies, that's a huge piece of embodiment work. And, as it occurs to me, a huge piece in coaching.
What I love about that too is first of all, if any of you have seen that talk, it doesn't look like it was planned in the sense that it's very structured, but it looks I mean, it's incredibly organized and flows. So when you first told me that story, John, I think what I loved is like, oh, he's done this practice long enough that sitting in some little dark room off to the side, knowing he only had 5 minutes before going on stage and this thing was going to be recorded, he could drop into this practice and it could serve him that deeply. And then the other thing that I love is right there in the story is basically structure and flow. And not only did your years of practice then serve you, but you created the structure in that moment in which you could trust. And trust is such a deep element of flow. It's like they were just dancing together. It's not like, oh, I need to be in my flow and I have to get out of my structure, or I need to be more structured so that I'm more, it's actually, they just came together like in perfect union.
Right. Well, in yogic theory, right, and in, my teacher is very adamant about this, structure is the combination of breath and how you're holding your body. So breath is actually the structure for inspiration, creativity, whatever we want to call it, to flow. As coaches, I mean, we're working from inspiration so much, and as teachers. So having a proper structure, meaning continually returning to our breath and our body, which is the structure. I mean, literally our body is the structure for the inspiration that comes through. So relaxation, breath, it's really important, I think, for people to remember. That's when we talk about structure, and we talk about structure in teaching or coaching, breath and body are the structure. Flow is what comes out of it. So if your structure is weak, your breath is weak, or your posture is weak, or you're kind of gripping, your flow is constricted.
Great.
You like when I do that?
It's hot.
Yeah, right. It's really attractive. Yeah.
Yeah, beautiful. So one of the other pieces John and I were talking about when we were planning this was really one of the frames that we hold is, and this goes perfectly with what John was just saying, which is that actually our greatest tool, or I would just say our primary tool as coaches or facilitators or teachers, is actually our body. And that's where the inspiration comes from. Certainly you can have a plan with a client, or you can have a plan if you're going to teach a class or a workshop. And I imagine that most of you have had at least some experience, if not some big ones, of sitting in front of a person and then just some question just arises, or some insight. Like sometimes I'll just ask somebody, I'll be like, oh, how does your throat feel? And they're like, how did you know? And they start crying. I'm like, I don't know how I knew. But it's these practices that are the embodiment practices where, did I feel them? Did I not feel them? Does it matter? But where the inspiration actually flows through that comes from this. So that's one of the things we're talking about, is how to actually use your body as a tool. So the first piece, or the first practice we just talked about is breath. And then John gave a specific breath practice. And from there, I want to move into the next one, which we're calling conscious relaxation. And so again, go ahead and close your eyes. And however you're sitting, make sure you might be sitting cross-legged, and that's fine. Your feet don't have to be on the floor. But if your feet are down, make sure that they can actually touch the floor. Whether it feels more, whether you actually feel more relaxed if you're sitting more upright and your spine is long, or if you're leaning back in your chair, if that relaxes your body more. Do the one where you feel like you can let go more. And the same with your hands and your arms. Actually allow them to rest on your body in such a way that if you kind of shrugged your shoulders up and down, that then they would actually rest. There's no need to force your shoulders down or strain in any way. but almost as though you had a little weight on the tips of your elbows, so that your elbows were just hanging down really gently. And again, just allow your eyes to remain closed. And the first piece is always to reconnect with your breath. And just like how John asked at the end, how many of you feel more connected to your body? And basically 100% of the hands went up. As you start to feel your body more, start to notice especially any place that's holding that can let go. And again, there's no need to push anything or force anything. It's actually just seeing if through your own awareness, bringing a little bit of awareness, it might be letting go around your belly. For me, it's often my inner thighs that over and over I'll catch myself holding just a little bit, and then, oh, I can relax there. Maybe 5 minutes later, I'll catch myself holding just a little bit. Oh, I can relax there. Relax the muscles of your jaw. The skin of your forehead. And even the muscles around your eyes slightly, almost so that you feel like your eyeballs are just relaxing back into your head. Once again, use your mind to notice in your own body, what are the places that habitually grip, even just very subtly. There's no need to shame those parts of yourself, but rather just to bring awareness. Oh, that part wants to grip. Oh, that part has a really hard time letting go. And especially any places that you noticed are a little more habitually wanting to hold, just take 1 or 2 more breaths, especially bringing breath and awareness to those parts of your body. And if there's any little bit of release that can come, just letting go. And seeing how much of that relaxation you can actually maintain as you very gently allow your eyes to open. Again, really, without any need to grasp it, just see if you can maintain some of that relaxation as you also bring your awareness to the other people on this call. And for me, this is the part, especially if I'm working with a client one-on-one, where, first of all, I might not know what to say, but I can just relax into that. Or they might bring something that's, intense in some way, shape, or form, but I can relax around it and then discover what happens. Or, if I stand on stage in front of 200 people, the part of me that doesn't go like, oh my God, I don't know what to say, is the part that actually just spends time over and over relaxing all the way through my body.
I was in a workshop last night. I was co-leading a workshop last night, and there was 10 people in it, but we were going through some pretty intense sexual intimacy practices over and over. And as people are clearing stuff in their body over and over again, I had to do the practice that I'm going to tell you about next, but I also had to consciously relax. Like, oh, what if my lats relaxed a little bit? Because as intensity starts to come towards us as coaches and teachers, our bodies will tense up as protection to all of the energy. So in order to be channels, there is a need to consciously relax. And what that does is it allows me to feel the room and know what direction to take the room, even when there's a lot of energy being moved.
The other thing that I would say about that is that it energetically lets your clients or your participants know that everything's okay. Because actually you're telling your body, this is okay. This is okay. You can relax. You actually don't need to freeze, flight, fight, whatever. You don't need to do that. And that transmits and it tells them, oh, I guess this is okay. This is okay.
And one last piece to that is that if you bring these practices to your clients, what'll happen is parts of their body that store tension and fear. So if you have your client do a 3-minute, belly breath and 3 minutes of relaxation practice, stuff will come up that is locked in their habitual tension. So you'll actually get to the heart of the matter, to the root of the matter, in a much smoother, more organic way that will feel good to them versus just engaging their mind, right? Which more often than not is programmed to think a certain way habitually. This allows you access to much deeper material to work with.
Beautiful. So then the last piece for now that we want to go into is coming from the breath and then coming from this place where we relax in our bodies. And let's actually start again with your eyes closed just for the first part. So close your eyes. And we won't go through the breath and the relaxation again, but again, they do kind of build on each other. But just energetically, draw yourself in, kind of compact your energetic body as though you could actually bring, you could call it your energy, you could call it your, anything that comes forward when you're interacting with a person or you're moving through the world or is around you. You might call it an aura. Just draw it all the way in so that it's actually underneath your skin. And maybe even a little bit smaller than the actual size of your body. And for any of you who are like, I don't know what this is, many of you can probably actually feel it, but if you can't, it's really a practice. Again, you didn't know how to get a basket into a basketball until you did. You just tried. So you can imagine it. Imagine that drawing in. And my guess is for most of you, as you draw in, your breath probably gets a little smaller also. So allow your breath to expand and start to bring that energetic body so that it's on the surface of your skin. And you can actually feel it all the way up from the top of your head, the front of your face, your whole front body, your back body, and your arms and your legs. You can feel that you're actually filling out exactly your size, your body in this moment, all the way to your fingertips. Your energy, your awareness completely fills your body and comes just to the outside. So you're actually above the skin surface. And again, most of you will probably start to feel, could be like buzzing or tingling. There could be movement. You'll start to actually feel that area around your body more. And from there, expand out and gently open your eyes as you expand out so that you start to feel your energetic body actually begins to include the other people on this call. Just as an awareness, you start to actually, maybe it almost feels like a bubble. They call this a Zoom room. So you're expanding to include the Zoom room.
And then continue to expand your awareness, not as if you're holding 10 people, but imagine it's 100. So continue to open your body and press your awareness, your energetic body out. So it's as if you're not talking to 100 now, it's 1,000 or 10,000. And feel yourself get wider and wider as you project your gift, your intuition, your teaching, your message out, not just to the room that you're working with, but much farther, much wider, much deeper. And just notice if that allows your body to widen so that there's more of you available in your teaching. And is there more of you available if you're holding 10 people versus holding the space for 1,000 or 10,000? Notice what happens, that subtle shift in your body as you're projecting your gift into a much larger space. And then whatever space you're imagining, just wrap it in a dome so the container is absolutely sealed. Kendra used a bubble. I like a dome, like a biodome. I like to use that visualization. And feel all the people you're holding, all the people you'll touch with your work in that dome. And for these last few seconds, just project anything you want to project. Love, wisdom, excitement, joy, purpose, depth. And literally press it out into the people that you will serve, not just on this call, but in your practices, in your life. And so the next time you teach, as you bring your awareness slowly back to your own body, landing in the seat you're sitting in, noticing your breath again, allowing your body to come back to the physical you. Just notice if there was a energetically expressed you, projected you, and also now a physical you. And that you can actually move back and forth. And when you're teaching, if you're teaching 10 people, you can actually project as if you're teaching 100, right? And it will feel to the 10 you're teaching as if there's more of you being expressed. So I know that's a little esoteric, but just so I could get a sense of if you guys actually felt yourself energetically moving out, just raise your hand. If you did, great. If you didn't, that's okay too. So what we're doing with this is playing with an energetic body just like you would if you worked out. And if you're teaching a group, what this allows you to do is feel a massive hold on the group. So you literally circle the group. I had to do this last night. I put a dome around the group so that there's a container. That's the structure. I literally used my awareness, my body, my breath to create a container energetically around the group. This is where we're going into the California woo-woo section, right? Around the group so that the group felt like they could flow more and they could relax more. So
the beauty in that practice, part of it actually is the going back and forth. Like if you were doing reps with a dumbbell, you don't just hold it up and hold it for like an hour. You know, you go back and forth, and that's where you actually build the strength. And it's the same with this, like knowing that you can actually bring it in and then bring it out. And they're equally important. There are times you actually want to go like, you know what? I don't want to be that big. And it's important to know that you know how to bring it back in. So both directions are really important, and they help build each other.
Yeah. Good. So we have a very brief time for questions on anything we presented. And since we're a small enough group, we'll just take the first hand that comes up. If there's anything that you had questions about, weren't sure about, felt like, what the fuck does that mean? Go ahead and raise your hand and we'll expand on it. Or how can I use this in a very specific way?
Especially that, like if you have something like, how does this apply to me and my life or my practice? I have a specific question. Miriam, I'm going to unmute you. Go ahead.
Okay. I was thinking about the expanding and when would I not want to do that? It just felt really, the intention was to hold everyone, and it also felt it could be vulnerable, like dissipation, rather than big. It could just, like I wasn't sure how to feel it. So then I thought, okay, tonight I'm going to a networking meeting, lots of people there. What if I tried this?
Because is the question when you wouldn't want to use this?
Yeah, like when is it actually dissipated energy, and when is it, yes, and when would I not use it?
Yeah, so that's a great question. That practice is more for when you're teaching groups, right? Because in teaching a group, you are, hopefully you want to become a channel, a clear channel for inspiration, for something greater than yourself, greater than your strategy, greater than what you want to get. And in doing that, the more that you do open yourself and get wide, the more the let's call it the stream of inspiration can come through you. So you're actually making yourself a wider channel that can be projected out to a group. In a networking meeting, I would suggest doing some combination of the first two practices. Practice relaxing, practice feeling the room, practice breathing into your belly, practice feeling the other people in the room, and just notice who you are naturally drawn to, what you're naturally asking them. And that feels like a way anybody who, I'm socially awkward. I mean, I need this stuff just to be able to deal with people. So I think that I would recommend the first two practices just as an experiment. Maybe it does nothing for you, but at least try it and see if it feels better. This is all about feeling better, because when you feel better,
basically, exactly what I was going to say is that, in networking, I mean, it can be hard to do this, but really you also want to be receptive, right? You're there to serve, but you're also there to receive. It's a little different than what can I get, but you do want to be available for like, oh, who actually wants to come and offer to me as well? And how can that circuit of giving and receiving flow actually as a circuit? And I think exactly what John said is like the first two practices are more like that. And the third is a little more like, what's her name in the X-Men? Jean Grey, like.
Yeah.
So maybe,
or Magneto, right?
That's
Feel all, or not Magneto. What's the guy that?
Professor X in the thing. Yeah.
Yes. Feeling all of humanity, right? Well, that's actually a practice. You can actually feel all humanity. Do you have time for another quick question?
Yeah, let's do one more. Did I see your hand, Andrew? Okay, go ahead.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, cool. So it's related to the question we just had, as well as the energetic practices. So this is coming from my experience personally. Sometimes if I'm not aware of my energy, it can be so powerful or so, I don't know, I label it as being maybe disruptive towards people sometimes. And Kendra, I was loving what you were saying about being receptive, but also serving. And I was, from an energetic perspective, like what would be the best way to hold ourselves or myself moving forward to both serve powerfully, but receive equally as powerfully? Because I don't know if I know the best practice around that. So I was curious from your perspective.
Well, I would say, I'm sure Kendra has her own thoughts on this, but I would say your practice is actually learning how to bring your energy in. Because if your energy's, whenever you feel your energy is destructive, first trust that. Okay, I'm actually too much for this moment, right? You can actually practice the opposite, kind of what Kendra said, where you're bringing yourself in without tightening. So the way that I do it this is the way I do it. When I'm in a situation where there's a lot of emotion, I literally leave my feeling body in the room, my feminine, I'll call it, the part of me that feels, is empathetic, is intuitive. I'll leave it in the room, in the space. I'll take part of myself and I'll literally put it on the moon. And that way I'm literally pulling my energy back and witnessing. So now I'm the witness, which is the masculine, and the feminine, which is the part of me that feels, in a moment, witnessing and feeling this experience. That tends to give whoever I'm with a lot of space. I mean, I know that, again, this sounds esoteric, but you literally practice bringing your awareness up and out so that while you're still present. And you can try that, or you can try what Kendra talked about, which is making yourself kind of coming back into your body. I think it's a matter of modulating, learning how to modulate your energy and knowing, because you're a big guy, you're an energetic guy, right? So yeah, you have a lot of energy. So you will have to learn how to be aware of when to put it forward, when to bring it back.
And I just want to reference, with what John said, is back to the beginning of the call when we talked about setting up this as an actual practice. So, you could just say for yourself, I want to practice this all the time. I want to always be aware of my energy, and I want to always, and it's like, that's a really nice kind of goal. And then it's really valuable, again, to use structure and flow. So to set up a structure. And especially with what you're talking about, Andrew, I think it's valuable to actually set up a container with at least one other person and practice extending your energy out to them, practice pulling it back, and see what you feel and get their feedback. When did you feel my energy touch you? When did you feel it inside myself? What felt good to you? And just I actually play with it so that you start to go like, yeah, that's exactly where I felt my energy too. That's totally when I touched you. Oh, you liked it when I did, like just get some feedback and set the structure so then you can play with it. And then you can let go of the structure and kind of like, okay, I'm just going to relax and be me for a while, you know?
Also for you, going wide, right? Take your energy and make it wide. Right? You feel like if I said, go wide right now, like get wider from the back of your body, from the side of your body, you could actually feel yourself wide. Now, that's not different than going forward. So playing with that is a really powerful tool. It's a very powerful yogic and meditative tool, man. This is ninja shit, right? This is the stuff that makes kind of ninja coaching, because how wide can you get so that they feel you fully present and wide, which is much more trustable than projected forward.
Right.
Yeah. So we should move to coaching because we only have a few minutes left. Yeah.
Okay, great.
Thank you for your question.
So Faith, are you up for taking a little time here at the end still? Okay, great. So I just took you off mute.
Hi.
Welcome. Thank you.
Thank you.
And we just want to open up the space. I know I sent you the questions, and it doesn't have to come from anything you said there, but we wanted you to kind of be getting that in your mind, but really more like what actually from today, what's most present now, and what would deeply serve you?
I think the peace thing isn't a problem for me, and I work a lot with being peaceful and helping people with their energy and my own energy and things. I think for me it's bringing fun into it as well. I think I spent a lot of years ill, and then I became a coach helping people with the same sort of illnesses. But it's the fun. We kind of lose the fun, and it's finding how to bring fun into what I'm doing and helping other people bring fun into their life as well.
I want to hear what John has to say in just a minute, but I just want to say, like, so I have a part of me that's like that, and I sort of affectionately call that part zenning out. So, and it's not that it doesn't have any benefits. It has benefits, right? Like I can create real like space of peace and spaciousness around me, but it's also a way that I recede, and I kind of I don't like to be vulnerable in certain situations, and so I do this thing where I just call it like zenning out, right? So I totally get it. And it's a practice to bring the other.
Are you willing to just go for it now?
Yeah.
Okay. It just came to me, right? So what I would love for you to do is to get up, and I'd love you to skip around the room like a 6-year-old girl, like la 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 la, and then sit down.
Earbuds out, you know. And
earbuds out. Literally, like turn it up to a 10. Like this is the moment of I am joy. So I would actually want you to skip around the room, fully embodying and expressing joy.
Okay.
We'll be here waiting. Okay, just by a show of hands, how many people actually feel more joy in faith? Just the 30-second embodiment practice, right? And you know, it's so easy for us to strategize about this when really the answers are all. And so what you did, if I was going to nerd out on it a little bit, you took this concept called joy, right? That's an ethereal concept. And you made it real through your body, through movement and breath. That's embodiment practice 101, right? It could be fierce love. I could say, okay, take fierce love, and now move as fierce love, stand as fierce love, stand as you know, and you could make fierce love real so we could all feel it just like we did, even over the internet. We could all feel it. So there's a bunch of, you didn't see this, but there's a bunch of people smiling.
Right. As soon as you got up, and especially when you said la 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 la, like, oh yes. Maybe, you know, in my work, especially, this tension point that I feel a lot, and that I work with people a lot on, which is like, it's the tension point between authenticity and habit. And we go like, but I don't feel joyful, or that doesn't feel true to me, or I don't like, I'm sure a lot of times you don't feel like skipping around the room, or you don't feel joyful, or you know, like these various things, like, but that doesn't feel true. But if I bring, again, this little, it's like even just a thin slice of it, or I just stop for a moment and see what is there anything that feels good or joyful or pleasurable or whatever that piece is, there any part of me that feels that? And then just expand it just as an act. I mean, I would say first and foremost, it's an act of generosity to yourself.
Yes.
And from there, that's an act of generosity to other people. But first, it's just an act of generosity to yourself that says like, oh, there's at least this little part that actually can connect to joy. And then I can expand that just as a gift. It doesn't have to be, I don't have to take myself skydiving, or I don't have to go out on some massive like vacation, or like right in this moment, I can feel the way that the leaves are dancing, and like the universe is kind of joyful.
Yeah. I had a group this weekend. I was in Hawaii with a bunch of men, and we were on this incredible beach, and the dudes were so serious, like, let's practice, let's meditate, let's like, right, you know? And I said, no, like, you're going to practice elation on the beach and in the water. And so 5 minutes later, there's, you know, a bunch of grown men like splashing each other. It's like a scene from Zoolander, right? But they were generally elated. And all I did was have them practice a concept and make it real through the body and encourage each other to amp it up. So what we can do alone is so much, but when we're together, that's why I love working in groups, because in groups we can support each other to unwind the habit of seriousness or, you know, or sadness. There's a habit in our body. Our body literally takes on the shape of sadness, or the shape of grief, or the shape of anxiety. And we need to do the opposite in order to open our body up. And we generally will not want to. Yeah. Somebody just said the Dalai Lama, or the Tibetan Lama that she works with, orders people to laugh for 5 minutes a day. I think that's fantastic. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah.
And it's really just talking about range, because, you know, you want to have that range into the sadness as well. But again, it's about habit, and then expanding that range so we actually have access to all of ourselves. And I would just imagine then, as you know, as a coach, we talked about this in terms of with the relaxation, where we get to transmit to our clients like, it's okay. We do the same with our capacity to feel anything. So basically our capacity to feel, you know, fierce love or rage or sadness or joy or turn on, or all these things, when they're integrated in our bodies, they do extend out, and they basically tell the people around us it's okay to feel those things.
It actually fires mirror neurons. So if you're open, I would give you a practice to continue that. Find some way to skip for 30 seconds or a minute, or dance, like, you know, put on Taylor Swift or something that feels like very joyful, and just dance as a way of embodying joy to create the neural pathways of joy. Joy has neural pathways just like grief does. And so you're literally creating new neural pathways when you practice that, especially when you don't want to.
Yeah, especially when you said that. It's funny, you said Taylor Swift, and for some reason I also saw, I don't know if you've ever seen Michael Franti in concert. like really fucking tall. Like he's like this big dude, but he just like bounces around on stage. His hair is kind of like, that guy knows joy.
Yeah.
Find like a video of him doing a live concert, you know, and just like bounce around and be joyful with him 5 minutes a day.
I would love you to try that and report back, you know, just how does it feel? Does it loosen something up? Does it make it more available? I would just love to hear. I don't want to give you a practice and then not know how it went. If you're open to that.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Does that help? Are we on the right track? Is that helpful?
Yeah, it's so helpful. I think you get into your head that you think that you've got to find a new way of doing something, or a new way of being, or a new practice, or a new, you know, read another book or something, and you just simplified it. So it just makes it so accessible, rather than, you know, I've got to go and do another course to find out how to find my joy.
Yes. You're going to do the skipping course.
Yeah.
It's free.
Yeah, I charge $40,000 for that.
Excellent.
Yeah.
I just think one last piece on the end of that, because it simplifies and it goes right to the heart of the matter. And I would be remiss if I didn't, you know, even I think when John said the second time, well, he said it the first time this happened, and then when he brought it up again, like doing it every day, both times, first of all, you seemed a little more joyful, but there was also a little bit of embarrassment. There's that little laugh, like, really? This is like, and that happens when we try on pieces that were out of practice. And so just to acknowledge that for any of you, like any part of this that touched, or anything that you take on where it's bringing in a new way of being or something you're out of practice with, is just to recognize it's going to bring up discomfort in some way, shape, or form. And you're going to have like all your reasons why not to do it, or why it seems silly or stupid or useless, or you don't have time for it today, or all those things. And just like, oh, you know, thank you, that part of me that, you know, is afraid to feel these ways for some reason. And just like you have to actually move through those pieces and just do it.
Last piece I'll say about this is, you know, if you have legitimate reasons to feel grief, trying to bypass the grief and just feel joy is not healthy. We call that spiritual bypass in my world, right? However, most people go the opposite way and just feel the grief. Talk about it all day long and process it, and, you know, and what I found to be the most healthy way is to allow the grief its natural, you know, because it's finite. It's not infinite, it's finite. Allow it to come through our body, and if the breathing will actually help it to come through in a more pure way, separating out the feeling of heartbreak from the thoughts that come with it. Do you feel the difference? The embodiment practice helps you get with the feeling, because the thoughts are bullshit, but the feeling is total truth. Feeling is total truth. The thoughts are just our childhood programming mixed with habits of thinking, but the feeling is all true. So I don't want to tell you that if you have grief to feel that you should just skip, but you can feel the grief and allow the grief to come through your body naturally. And then after you've had that expressed, then skip. You know, don't add that to the pie, and then you'll have a range of emotions, and that'll help your body. It'll help your health. It'll help your coaching, I would imagine, and just generally how you feel.
Awesome. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So we are right at the top of the hour. Part of me, I'm like, oh, let's just keep going because it feels good. But we want to honor the time. And, first of all, this is recorded. So if any of those practices spoke to you, you can go back and use it again, or re-listen to it so that you can bring it in. The first piece was specifically about breath. The second piece was the conscious relaxation. And the third piece was that energetic projection, or just the energetic, I don't even know what you would call that, but being able to draw in and the projection. And we would really encourage, especially if one of those really touched you, or if something in one of those practices touched you, or anything from the Q&A, is really to take some piece on. And like we said at the beginning, they're actual practices, which means you need to do them on a regular basis. They're cool as thoughts, but they don't really have an impact unless you do them. So, we'll post a recording of this in EverCoach. Feel free to listen, watch it again or listen to it again. Post any questions that we didn't get to, anything that really inspired you, anything that made sense or didn't make sense. Like, bring that to that thread, and we'll stay engaged. We're happy to, continue to answer questions there. And if anything feels private, you can personal message either John or I, just so you know, like we're totally available for that. Yeah, and thank you so much for being with us.
This was fun. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
All right.
Okay. Ciao.
Ciao.